Hey everybody! While making my Night Lord special character, I got a lot of questions about how to make the trims on my miniatures. So I made a short tutorial for you where I show you how to make the trims themselves, but also add some spikes to them if you want to make them more chaos. Because the trims you can either use for regular Space Marines to make the Primaris mark armor look a little bit more classical, like the Mark 7 or 6. But it's also basically the Chaos Space Marine look, but then with more spikes. So going from the cleat trims to the spike trims might help you make some nice Chaos Space Marines, as I did for my Night Lord. So the first thing you do is you make a small roll of green stuff, and when the roll is roughly half the thickness of the rim that you want, you cut off a length of sausage that you can add to the miniature, and then you start by pressing the green stuff onto the plastic so that it sticks. Once it's stuck on all sides, then you can start smoothing. You can start smoothing it out by softly dragging this is a silicone tool, by softly dragging the silicone tool over the surface. Make sure that the silicone tool is wet so that it prevents sticking to the surface and making all kinds of weird dents. And then just keep moving the green stuff around until you're roughly happy with what it looks like. Here I'm attaching the green stuff to the bottom of the leg so that there's no gap between the green stuff and the plastic over there. Now, as you can see, it's not perfectly smooth, and that's no problem at all, because we're going to fix that in a following step once the green stuff is cured. One more time, this time at the front of the model. And if your green stuff is uneven in thickness over the length, then you can use the side of your brush to put it back into place and then smooth it out again. In the next step, you file it back down with a file. Here I use the Games Workshop files. I get quite a lot of remarks saying that you can't file green stuff, or questions asking, can you file green stuff? Well, yeah, you really can. It's not much of a problem. Sometimes the result can be a bit rough, but if you use a finer grit of file, that usually is no problem. And in the painting process, you smooth out the final details anyway, so there's no problem there. To get straighter edges of the trims, or to flatten out the sides, I usually use a sharp knife, as you can see here, and just cut away part of the sides. This also helps if you think that the trims became too wide or too thick. You can thin them down like this. And then once I'm finished cutting, I sand down the sides to smooth them again. I also promised to add some spikes, so here we go. First thing is I roll another sausage and then cut off a small part of the end of it and try to shape that into a triangle in the place where I want to have it. And the first thing that you really need to do is really smoosh it onto the surface to make sure that it sticks, because otherwise it's gonna be very hard to do. And once it's really stuck to the surface, you have to go back and forth from the sides between pushing the sides up and down until you get a sharp edge and a triangular shape. By pulling the green stuff down from the wide end to the sharp tip, you get a longer spike than you started out with, and you just have to push the sides back in again. So it's just a lot of going back and forth. Now you could stop here already and have a nice spike and just add more spikes along the trim. But one other thing that you see on the artworks and on the models is that the base is actually caved in a little bit. So that's also very easy to fix, because you just take your tool again and press in the sides. That means that there will be a bump on top of the spike. You can cut that away now while the green stuff is not cured yet, but you can also just wait until everything is cured and then cut it off, so that you have a flat surface again. And once everything is cured, you can sand it down completely, so that everything is one trim and there is no difference between the spike and the trim anymore. If you want to make an arrow, which is also a classic Chaos symbol on all kinds of miniatures, you just add another triangle at the tip of the first triangle and then smooth that out again, and that way you will get a nice little arrow. So here's another example at the edge of the trim. Yeah, and that's basically it. So once everything's cured, just sand it down and paint it, and you will have a nice trim on your miniatures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.